Greetings, Dr. Mark Winton here from the University of Central Florida, Department of Criminal Justice. And what I'd like to do in this video is talk a little bit about the Jerry Sandusky Penn State case. One of the things I would mention is that the information that I present in the PowerPoint is from our textbook published in 2013, When Teachers, Clergy, and Caretakers Sexually Abuse Children and Adolescents. And we actually have a case, the Sandusky case, presented in the textbook. Of course, our book was published prior to the conclusion of this case, and so it obviously is incomplete simply due to the time frame. Also, there are many articles available and a lot of media presentations about the case, including timelines and those people that were involved in the case and the outcome of the case. I have a little change here with how I'm going to present this, and that is prior I presented it more from an investigative perspective, as if you were an investigator and you were called out to investigate this as a sexual abuse allegation, how you would proceed, what you'd look for, how you'd go about the interviewing and data collection, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to do that in this particular video, but I want to focus on some other issues related to the whole idea of the social aspects of the community and the corporation. So we believe that the work on corporate transgressions may be useful in exploring what you'll see was the failure to report or intervene in an appropriate manner in child abuse cases in religious institutions, schools, and other organizations that work with children. So a failure to report and or intervene. And we can also look at some of the work, for example, Bandura, Caprera, and Zolene 2000 discuss how corporate transgressions occur through a variety of methods. Let me just mention a few of those strategies because they apply to this case. First, euphemistic labeling occurred. For example, the extent of the sexual abuse allegations were relabeled. Somehow, sexually abusive behavior became defined as horseplay. It appeared that the sexually abusive behaviors that were initially reported became less severe as information moved up the hierarchical ladder. Second, diffusion of responsibility was also apparent as the reporting of the sexual abuse allegations shifted to another person, thus removing responsibility from the initial observer, at least likely in their own mind. Fearing one's job or tarnishing the reputation of the organization, those with knowledge of the sexual abuse allegations appeared to either disregard or distort the sexually abusive behavior with a focus on concern for the alleged abuser, their jobs, and the public scandal that would occur if the allegations were made public. So this is where that whole community aspect came into play, the organizational aspect of what happened. What you'll see is that many reports were made, but there was a lack of reporting to the proper authorities who would be the ones to investigate immediately this case and all of the allegations. So a grand jury investigated the sexual abuse allegations against Gerald A. Sandusky, who was a Pennsylvania State University football coach and also founder of the Second Mile program that was created to help young troubled males. In the state attorney's report that we used, 8 victims are presented in the report, although additional allegations of sexual abuse have been made since the report was released. And in that report, we get an idea about the allegations, what types of sexual abuse occurred, when, where, how frequently, and so on. So I'm not going to go into those details. Those are in the actual Pennsylvania Office of the Attorney General 2011 report. And of course, you can get that from trial transcripts as well. But what's interesting is that there were observations made by other adults of inappropriate behaviors between Sandusky and boys. In fact, in one scenario, and I'll quote or summarize by quoting from some of the Pennsylvania Office of the Attorney General 2011 report. A Penn State graduate assistant reported observing Sandusky and a boy in the shower and in the locker room. And according to the report, quote, it talks about, or I'll go ahead and summarize. The graduate assistant was in the locker room and he saw the lights on. He saw Sandusky was showering with a boy, and he believed the boy was sexually abused. And he reported this the next day to the head coach, Paterno, and also went to Paterno's home where he reported what he had seen. And he also went ahead and, in addition, he went ahead and he reported to his father to get advice on what to do. Very concerned about what had happened. Interesting, and then according to the report, Coach Paterno contacted the Penn State athletic director, and others were contacted moving up in the administration about this. And the graduate assistant basically was told that they would look into it and they would take care of it, to summarize from the state attorney's 2011 report. In addition, reading on, the report points out that weeks later, the graduate assistant was informed that Sandusky's locker room keys were taken, and a report was also made to the Second Mile program. There's dispute as to what the graduate assistant reported to his supervisors. And eventually, one of the administrators reported that he informed the university president, Graham Spanier, of the incident. Apparently, the incident was not reported to the police. Now, this you can already see that you have half a dozen adults having knowledge of these allegations, yet it has not been reported to the police at this point. Sandusky was also told that he was not allowed to bring children into the Penn State football club. Apparently, other allegations were investigated back in 1998, centering around Sandusky and boys showering in the locker room. Sandusky was not banned from the building, and according to Curley, quote, the ban on bringing children to the campus was unenforceable. The grand jury finds the portions of the testimony of Tim Curley and Gary Schultz are not credible, end of quote. That's from the Pennsylvania Office of the Attorney General. So we're getting a lot of conflicting information here as well. This was not the first time that there were sexual abuse allegations against Sandusky. The report indicates that there was an investigation conducted in 1998 that was closed, even though Sandusky had admitted that he showered with boys. When the mother asked Sandusky if his private parts touched her son during the shower and bareheaded, Sandusky responded, and I quote this from the Pennsylvania Office of the State Attorney 2011 report, page 20, quote, I don't think so, maybe. At the conclusion of the second conversation, after Sandusky was told he could not see victim 6 anymore, Sandusky said, I understand, I was wrong. I wish I could get forgiveness. I know I won't get it from you. I wish I were dead, end of quote. Again, I refer you to the Pennsylvania Office of the Attorney General 2011 report for detailed information. In 2000, a janitor at Penn State observed Sandusky sexually abusing a young boy. The janitor reported his observations to the other staff and his supervisor. It appears that no report was made, as the janitorial staff feared they might lose their jobs. This appeared to be another missed opportunity for police and child protective services to intervene. Unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, child sexual abuse allegations and observations were made hidden from those who might intervene and prevent further victimization. And I ask, how can we make sense of this case? We have laws that state anyone who, believes that sexual abuse occurred are mandated to report. It appears at least a dozen people were aware that there were allegations of inappropriate behavior between Sandusky and children from the Second Mile organization. Several of these individuals stated that they had witnessed sexual abuse occurring. Others received reports of sexually abusive behavior. Next, we address some of the problems inherent in the system that is supposed to protect children and adolescents. Well, I'm not going to go ahead and detail those problems because you can see a lot of them related to the failure to report to the proper authorities. And also you can see how the allegations changed over time and reporting, and how there wasn't a coherent, that these people didn't put the big picture together about risk based on previous reports. So a lot going on there. Well, what was the outcome? And again, you can read more details in some of the additional online postings or links. Well, Sandusky is found guilty of 45 charges, and he's sentenced to 30 to 60 years, and he must serve at least 30 before parole. Basically, he got a life sentence, okay? He got a life sentence. So he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Penn State was sanctioned. That they had sanctions related to the football program. Interesting, those sanctions were later rescinded. There was also a great deal of conflict because Coach Paterno was fired. And after he died, shortly after he was fired from, I believe, cancer. But there was a lot of controversy over his firing. He was, I think, planning to retire after just many years at Penn State. Coach Paterno was this loved coach by the Penn State community, and especially those that were involved in the football program and fans of the football team. This brought on a lot of controversy in how people talked about and viewed Penn State football and Penn State as a organization. In addition, the president of Penn State was also fired, and some of those individuals that are mentioned in the state attorney's report, you see, they also had their own trials with sanctions and being convicted on particular crimes and having associated outcomes, and so that all occurred much later on. And when we go back to this, we ask maybe what makes this famous crime and trial, and I think a lot of it had to do that this was a case of basically an organization that involved the administrators of a football program that was very popular and very respected in the community. And so you have a lot of community conflict as well. I've worked on cases before where you had organizations or people that were of high stature in the community, and you can see that there's different pressures from different coalitions, and it becomes an additional set of complexities one must deal with when investigating a type of case where you're dealing with an organization or institution of some type. So I think if you're going into the field and you're going to be possibly investigating organizations, it's very relevant to look at the literature research and theories, for example, on white-collar crime, on organizational crime, things of that nature, and understand some of the pitfalls and the frustrations that you'd face. And I'll wrap this up here. Thank you.